committed to guarding Castle Grayskull from the havoc of destruction. For those who control Grayskull control the power.
Those who grew up during the 80s like me will know that our childhood was really special with some fun content and kids' entertainment. I can think of way too many cartoon shows that made the television time all the more fun, and the Masters of the Universe franchise has probably been the cherry on the cake. Over the decades, the franchise has served up some compelling action and exciting superhero characters, and even today, the spin-off projects and sister shows are widely popular. However, I have realized that some of the most powerful entities have remained largely in the shadows, and there are these godlike entities in the Masters of the Universe that can put the iconic He-Man to shame. In this video, I will take you on a journey down memory lane as I revisit these super powerful entities and their storyline. The Goddess of Grayskull. I cannot begin the list without this unique character who is an Eternian deity, and many of you might remember her as the Sorceress. She is tasked with maintaining the natural order and protecting Castle Grayskull from those who might harm it, and in the original narrative, she is the one who provides He-Man with the armor and weapons that he needs to fight Skeletor. I have always been intrigued by the connection between the Goddess of Grayskull and Teela, because back in the 1980s Masters of the Universe toy line, both the Goddess and Teela are represented by the same action figure. A link between the two is finally confirmed in the Tale of Teela, and it is established that Teela was created from a portion of the goddess's power. If you are familiar with the early comics, you will know that the goddess plays a pretty major role there. Later in the 1983 animated series, the character was reinvented as Teela Na, or Sorceress of Castle Grayskull. I like the explanation given in the 2012-2016 DC Comics, where it is portrayed that the goddess is the deity of all living beings and goes by different names. In the Masters of the Universe Classics toy line, the elements from previous continuities have been combined, and the goddess is said to have a major position in the Eternian history, and this timeline separates her from both the Sorceress and Teela. So, as you can see, the versions are plentiful and there are far too many versions of the goddess, and they all come with different origin stories. That being said, one thing remains common. She is always a major guiding figure and a source of positive power in the Masters of the universe, and it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that He-Man wouldn't even exist without her. I would have loved it if she had more appearances in the animated shows, but they kept her story arc rather limited. Zor, Ka, and Havoc. I will now dive into Zor, Ka, and Havoc, the ancient gods from the Masters of the universe that totally blew my mind when I first learned about them in Revelation and Revolution. They're like the cosmic big three behind Eternia's magic, and I can't get enough of their epic backstory. At the dawn of Eternia, three primordial deities ruled existence. Zor, the Bringer, is all about birth, life, nurturing, balance, and protection. She's the falcon goddess, linking to the sorceress who turns into that majestic bird. Ka, the Explorer, represents passion, flesh, desire, and the wild living experience. Then there's Havoc, the Devourer, god of destruction and greed, with that creepy ram skull emblem. He's the Dark One, fueling havoc and chaos. These gods form the Great Circle, totally dependent on each other for balance. Zor creates life, Ka lets it experience the world, and Havoc destroys it to restart the loop. With one, poof, existence crumbles. They called a truce after eternal wars, Zor versus Ka especially, building towers to store their wisdom and magic. Grayskull Tower for Zor, Viper Tower for Ka, Tower of Shadow for Havoc, and a central tower to unite them. In the Netflix era of Masters of the Universe, the story gets an interesting spin. Staff of Zor powers protection magic, Ka amps up raw desire and living force, Havoc's staff, ram-headed born in its fires, tempts with destruction. Hordak gave it to Keldor, pre-Skeletor, for control. Teela masters all three magics to become ultimate sorceress, balancing Grayskull with Havoc and Ka without losing herself. Skeletor taps Havoc's greed, but Teela saves the day. King Grayskull. King Grayskull, Devon, is basically the source code for the entire franchise. In the 2002 continuity, he's the ancient warrior king of Eternia, who lived long before Prince Adam, and Castle Grayskull was literally his home before it became the mystical fortress we all know. He's married to Queen Vina, rides a massive war beast called the Battle Lion, and spends his reign doing the thing He-Man ends up doing later, holding the line against nightmare-level threats like the Snake Men and Hordak. Now, here's the part where he stops being legendary king and starts feeling godlike. When Hordak tries to open a portal to the dimension of Despondos, Grayskull pulls off the ultimate move and he forces that portal to turn back on Hordak and his forces, banishing them into Despondos. The catch is, it costs him his life. He pays for the win with his own life force, and Grayskull's power doesn't disappear after his death. He transfers his mystical energies into his power sword, which later becomes the foundation of the Sword of Power and He-Man's transformation. That's why, by the power of Grayskull, is literally calling on the legacy of a king who turned a demonic invasion into a cosmic exile. So when we say stronger than He-Man, it gets funny, because He-Man is basically running on Grayskull's battery. He's the reason the entire Eternian power system even exists in the first place. Serpos. In the 2002 continuity, Serpos is the ancient snake god of the Snake Men, and Snake Mountain is literally Serpos's imprisoned form. This means the evil warriors are essentially squatting inside a chained-up deity without fully grasping what kind of cosmic landlord they've got. The backstory is peak Eternia mythology. Long before He-Man's era, the Elders trapped Serpos by locking him into the shape of Snake Mountain. That prison holds for ages until King Hiss finally cracks the seal and awakens him. And when I say awaken, I mean the landscape stops being scenery and turns into an apocalyptic monster situation. In the episode Awaken the Serpent, Serpos returns as the Snake Men's god made flesh, and suddenly the stakes are high. Serpos is more powerful than He-Man in a way a natural disaster is more powerful than a hero. He's gigantic, worshipped, ancient, and his existence reshapes the battlefield. His most terrifying ability is how he exists as both creature and location. He-Man does manage to stop him, and Serpos is transformed back into Snake Mountain, basically resealed into dormancy. And the name echoes outside that one story too. Characters invoke by Serpos in DC material, and in the Modern Origins mini-comic Leviathan's War, there's even a medallion of Serpos, a powerful artifact people fight over like it's a nuclear launch key. Horokoth. Horokoth is one of those deep-cut lore bombs that makes Eternia feel like it has actual religion. In the DC comic storyline He-Man the Eternity War, the Mother Goddess is treated as a divine power with three major aspects: Serpos, Snake, Zor, Falcon, and Horokoth, Bat. And yeah, the Bat part is not suitable at all. Horokoth is the shadowy, doom-flavored face of that trio, tied to death and destruction in the mythic cycle vibe. What makes Horokoth really fun for storytelling is how it blurs the line between holy and terrifying. In that Eternity War framing, the Mother Goddess is tied to Eternia itself, but the affiliations connect her to forces like the Snake Men and the Evil Horde. That tells you immediately that this isn't some clean, glowing, benevolent deity. This is an ancient power different factions interpret to justify their own empires, and Horokoth is the aspect that darker forces would absolutely lean into. And if you've watched Netflix's He-Man and the Masters of the Universe 2021 CGI, the name pops up in a much weirder way. Evil Lyn has a winged bat-like creature called Horokoth, and the series reveals it's actually her father, Hordak, in a bat form. Even the captions versus spoken dialogue get confusing, which is honestly very on brand for Masters of the Universe deep lore. Power-wise, Horokoth is more of a cosmic concept wearing a bat-shaped mask.
There is only one person on this planet who may prevent this catastrophe.
Zodac. Alright, let's untangle Zodac because this is the classic Masters of the Universe name maze. The character starts as Zodac in the early toy era, 1982, but the spelling floats between Zodac and Zodac for years. Later lore, like Masters of the Universe classics, even treats them as two separate individuals, with Zodac taking the name in honor of the original Zodac. So if you've ever felt dizzy reading different versions, you're not alone. In the Filmation and DC-style portrayal, Zodac is the ultimate cosmic referee. He's labeled as a cosmic enforcer, but he stays mostly neutral. One of the coolest examples is the Starseed situation. Zodac basically engineers a scenario where both He-Man and Skeletor race for a universe-changing power source, and it becomes a morality test to see if He-Man can resist temptation. I think that is more than just strength, and that's judgment of someone who is an equivalent of a god. Then the 2002 series swings hard into a more personal warrior-monk version. Zodac is portrayed as a powerful, immortal Eternian who lived through prehistoric conflicts with the Snake Men, meditating in the Mystic Mountains and carrying a centuries-old grudge. He'll aid He-Man when it aligns with this code, but he refuses to pledge loyalty to anyone. Hero. I find the real-world history of Hero to be rather wild, because he almost didn't exist. In 1987, Mattel planned a prequel toy line called The Powers of Grayskull, set in Eternia's prehistoric past, often called Eternia. Hero was supposed to be the centerpiece, a young but insanely powerful wizard who'd reveal the origin of He-Man's power, and then the whole line got cancelled before it could fully happen. In the original licensed material for that cancelled line, Hero's alter ego was Gray, and he had a transformation phase of his own. He'd place one hand over his heart, flex the other arm, say his line, and become Hero of Grayskull, described as the most powerful wizard in the universe. That's the entire character in one sentence. Later, continuities tried to anchor him into the main mythos. In the 2013 He-Man and the Masters of the Universe comic series, Hero is depicted as the lone surviving son of King Grayskull and Queen Vina. He leads resistance after his father's death, recovers the Sword of Power, and helps hide it away until destiny delivers it to the rightful heir. And in Masters of the Universe Revelation, he finally makes an animated debut as one of King Grayskull's sons. So power-wise, Hero is the wizard champion of Eternia, the guy who can change history by choosing where the Sword of Power goes. If He-Man is the muscle of Grayskull, Hero is the mind, and depending on the story, that can be even scarier. I know some of these entities have such few mentions across the He-Man lore that you might be having trouble syncing up their stories. You might have also come across versions of them because the lore is so extensive across all the comic books and multiple animated shows. However, it is important for every fan of the franchise to be well aware of these powerful godlike entities who control the power balance in the Masters of the universe. Also, it is worth mentioning that while Skeletor might seem like a generic supervillain, there are some versions that portray him as an ultra-powerful godlike being who embodies all that is evil. Let me know in the comments below what you think of these unique characters, and also share your thoughts on any other such godlike entities that might come to mind.